Hi there, this is Jeff Galshaw, and welcome to another episode of the CineFiles. This week we are talking about, hold on to your hats folks, the movies of Prince. Just know this was not something I came up with. This is one of our guests this week came up with this subject. And while I'm here, why don't I introduce the panel? There is Lola Rock'n'Rolla.
Hello, everybody. I love Prince. It was so his idea.
And the man who actually brainstormed this idea, Andre Joseph, director extraordinaire.
What time is it in America?
Yeah. Oh, we. What?
Jungle Love. So, we are talking about Prince movies of all things.
Woo!
A very inspired show. I'm actually going to ask Andre, why did you pick this subject in particular?
I'm just a major fan of the man, his music. I've seen him in concert a couple of years ago when the Musicology album came out. And my God, the guy could put together an amazing performance and just, he's a legend, plain and simple.
Interesting.
But can he direct?
We'll get to that in a moment. I will just throw in this one random thing that I actually have been reading Torre's book on him and finding out more and more, or like stories and myths that have been like things that I never knew. So it was interesting reading that and then having to revisit these films. Some were more pleasurable than others, but we'll get to that again. First, let's start with his classic film, 1984's Purple Rain.
Yes, Purple Rain.
I remember the story somewhat, but not specific, so if I'm wrong, let me know. He plays the kid, and he's performing at this club. Is it Grand Slam or Glam Slam?
2nd Avenue, 7th Avenue. It's a famous club in Minneapolis.
Yeah. And his main rival there is Morris Day and the Time.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And basically he meets a girl, an up-and-coming, I guess, singer named Apollonia. I don't remember if that was her name in the film. But
it doesn't matter.
And soon becomes a power struggle and creative struggle for her between him and Morris Day. Now, I saw this film when it was totally inappropriate for me to see this film when I was 7 years old in movie theater. But my family really were big Prince fans, so I went to go see it. And that is probably what has led to that was the film that exposed me early to boobies.
Yes,
and
boobies!
Erotica, sort of
and
on film.
Stage humping. It introduced you to stage humping.
Well, realistic stage humping, according to one of our guests. The film... Even before I even get to the review, maybe you guys would know, what the hell does Jerome do, who is part of the time? Is he a butler? Is he a side musician? Is he just comic relief?
I thought he was like a bouncer kind of guy. Like he's there in case Morris, Day gets into trouble that he can't handle or something.
Jerome doesn't even look like he can beat anybody else.
Well, it's like he's the part of the buddy picture. He's just always, who knows?
Yeah, the sidekick. He's also a real percussionist. I've seen the Time perform, so...
Because that was
the
what I was
Time,
wondering.
too? Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because that's what I was wondering, because I've
see
seen
the Time.
him outside of the film, always around Morris Day, but I always wondered, what does he really do?
Does he have to do anything besides just be that guy? I'd have him around if I could, just being that guy.
Great.
Exactly, just being your guy.
Yeah.
He's your guy. He's that guy.
I just found it very strange because in all these films, he's involved in all of 3 of the films. But from my point of view, Purple Rain is a classic. I liked it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's probably, I will even make this statement now, spoilers. This is probably the best Prince movie we're going to discuss on this show.
By far.
But I'll let you guys say whatever you want, whatever you thought about it personally. Of course, everybody, I love the soundtrack.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying. All those songs are classics. I am secretly old, and so I was in high school when this came out, and it was nutballs. I mean, it totally changed everything, just like how Michael Jackson changed everything and Madonna changed everything. This movie changed everything. I mean, everybody wanted to be either like Prince or like Morris Day. Everyone was constantly talking about this. Nobody was wearing blouses, but people were like definitely dressing in more purplish I mean, it was the 80s anyway, so the clothing was bad anyway. But this was like the most popular film that was out like throughout my entire high school. You know, it really changed stuff. And you know, Prince was like a leading man. He's a 5'2" little tiny leading man.
Or the short people.
Yeah, like, no, but he always had like the hottest women, and he was the best musician, and like, you know, this was like a really, really big film. You know, and it was also like, you know, it was a great American love story in its way, you know? And it was really like, besides, you know, something that, you know, Molly Ringwald was in, some John Hughes movie, it was like the biggest movie of the 80s that I remember. You know, it was huge. So, you know, and the soundtrack is just, you know.
Classic.
Yeah, it's classic.
Phenomenal. I mean, I was kind of a late bloomer. Like, I saw the movie when I was in college, and this is probably like 10 years ago.
Right.
Only because, like, when I first got exposed to him, it was through the Batman soundtrack.
Right.
So I wore out that tape
You
in my
remember when
dad's
Kim Basinger was in love with him for
Yes,
a second?
indeed.
She was on the Oscars dressed in purple, all like, you know, like this. You never give Oscars to black people. Like, she never cared before, but she's dating Prince now, and now it's a thing. Yeah.
But I was definitely like one of those guys, like,
Brainwashing.
while everybody was listening to 50 Cent 10 years ago, I was listening to Prince and
Yeah.
buying the albums, seeing the movie on DVD. And it was like, my God, the concert scenes were phenomenal. It also had like some of the most realistic love scenes I've ever seen on film. I mean, so heavy duty, even for
Especially for
R-rated
you,
movies.
you were 7.
Yeah, I was like, what's this? I like it.
You know, that was some steamy stuff at the time, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know that most of the actors in it are musicians also. But, I mean, even though I didn't know him at the time, and even later in life, I got to know his work, I did not recognize Clarence Williams III as the father
Oh, he was
at all.
phenomenal.
Yeah, he was really good.
I thought it was the captain from Beverly Hills Cop who always played that role for some odd reason when I was young, because he had that same anger and intensity. And, you know, obviously we've seen Clarence Williams III now. He's a versatile actor, but I had never seen, like, a performance quite like that from
He was
him
really
ever.
good in it, yeah.
That's one of the indelible things that stays with me from that film.
And that was, yeah, it was kind of a deep thing to touch upon in a movie that's basically pop culture, you know. It's
Yeah, to
like,
offset that with the musical performances
yeah.
and Prince sort of like exposing his life to his audience.
Yeah, yeah.
Which kind of helped explain why his character was kind of awkward, kind of quiet in the film. Though the most unrealistic part of the film
Was him trying to drive a motorcycle?
No, I mean, he's not
did
that
okay.
small.
He did okay. But when he was trying to beat up his dad, that was a little, the girly run with the blouse.
Come on,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
isn't gonna work.
It was the run is the problem with his arms flapping. But
Well,
you know.
I mean, most people would argue, you know, that this film is a classic, it's a milestone, but unfortunately, for more his professional career, he decided to make another film.
Yeah.
And many expected this to be the sequel to Purple Rain, but actually it was an original project by the Purple one called Under the Cherry Moon, which was originally supposed to be directed by Mary Lambert, who had directed Pet Sematary, but they disagreed on the script. So basically Prince took over the whole film. And
It's not such a hot idea, turns out.
oh, you think that's bad?
He looked good in it.
Originally, his girlfriend at the time was supposed to star in the film, but they all agreed she was such a bad actress she couldn't star in it. So he plucked a young drama student by the name of Kristen Scott Thomas to make her screen debut in this film. And also, Terrence Stamp quit the film before they even started filming because he just did not like the direction the film was going in. I believe he was replaced by Joseph Summer.
No, it was Stephen Burkoff from Beverly Hills Cop.
It was
Oh,
somebody
really?
from the 80s I remember who was kind of big.
Playing the same part, essentially.
Of course. Now, what in researching this film, after unfortunately rewatching it, was find out that this film is in black and white, but it was filmed in color and then processed to be black and white afterwards. And the only nice thing I can say about this film is that the cinematography is really good.
The sets are nice. Props
I mean,
are
it took
good.
place on the French Riviera.
Yeah.
Another comedic term by Jerome.
What was the record store part?
Oh, the record store.
Record store.
Another comedic term by Jerome without Morris Day in this film.
It's like Prince was trying to be Morris Day in the movie.
Yeah,
Yes,
it really
because
was.
It was it was
Well, because
strange.
Morris Day was the cooler one in
Yeah.
Purple Rain, so he figures, oh, I'll be the cool one this time. Yeah.
This okay. I should mention the story. The thin one there is. He plays basically a gigolo, a con man, with his sidekick Tricky, played by Jerome. That's his actual name. So who could not tell these were con men, and he ends up trying to seduce young Kristen Scott Thomas, and her father's against it, and then of course he falls in love with her.
Hopeless romantic princess.
But excuse me, but this film, it's just so.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. It's on the Rotten Tomatoes list, isn't it? It's pretty far up there. So
and
it got a couple raspberries. What is it?
Yeah,
Raspberries. Yeah,
golden raspberries.
Golden raspberries. Yeah.
And here's the.
Wasn't there was one decent song that came out of it though.
Kiss.
Hold on, cut. My mic fell out.
We had the song "Kiss" come out of that soundtrack,
So
which was a big
all
hit.
is not lost.
I mean, yeah,
And I kind of feel like the Outcast movie. They saw this movie before they made their movie,
Yeah,
so
they
that's
had to.
you know.
That's what we gotta do.
Yeah.
Because the album is a parade, because it wasn't an out-and-out soundtrack album when the film came out. Spoiler alert, because my favorite part of the film is the credit sequence where after
it's over.
Prince's character dies, and he has a jam session in heaven with him sitting on the floor
With the revolution.
Exactly. Or nowhere else in this film, mind you. They just come out for this.
That's actually the
for the
downside
trailer.
of this movie is the lack of performances in the film.
Well, I mean, his character, again, it's so hard to pin down this movie. It's not a musical, but yet it has him kind of perform one song.
He's trying to do Laurel and Hardy. That's basically his attempt, and he failed miserably at
Yes,
it.
but then it seems like he also wants to mix in some kind of Fellini-esque reality into the film.
Well, I think the problem
Yeah.
is that when you're a genius person like he is, I mean, he can play anything, and he's written 100 songs about sex. He's just like the coolest guy, can play any instrument. He's like a genius. When you're a genius like that, you think it transfers. But it just doesn't sometimes.
does not.
Doesn't always. Like even in Purple Rain, it's not like there was a great performance by him. He was being him. You know what I mean? And he did pretty well. I mean, Purple Rain is a classic. It's an incredible film, but he did pretty well. But it wasn't really acting. Like if he's trying to act, you just can't do everything, is what I'm saying. Yes. Not everyone can be Orson Welles. And Orson Welles probably couldn't play music like Prince could, so there you go.
And I remember this film being very heavily marketed, even on MTV, which actually had a viewer win a contest where they would premiere the film in their hometown, which was somewhere in Wyoming. And this film, I mean, like I said, if you're a diehard Prince fan, watch the film. If you're not,
just to stare at him, if nothing else, and his foxy women.
It's not as terrible as his next movie.
Yes, that's where I was going to get to.
Equally as terrible.
I mean, this film made back the money spent on it, $12 million. So eventually got his money back. Graffiti Bridge, and I thought Under the Cherry Moon was bad. Here's my embarrassing secret. I saw this film in theaters because I really like the song Thieves in the Temple from this soundtrack. Yes, that's right. I have the album.
It is a kick-ass song, yeah.
Yes, I have the vinyl single and I have the actual soundtrack to the film, just not with me. And
I'd be worried if he did. Bring it with him.
And this time we get the return of Morris Day in the time.
Yes.
And all the songs, all of his songs are not exactly on the Graffiti Bridge for you music fans out there. It's on Pandemonium. That album. This film finds us in the near future, where apparently after this great performance that Prince gave at the end of Purple Rain, his Purple Rain song, him and Morris Day somehow tied. So now they both co-own the club now, and Morris Day has somehow become sort of a gangster figure in this small Minneapolis town. So he owns 4 clubs, but this is his main one. And for some odd reason, he's forcing Prince to give him $10,000 to bribe the mayor, which is never fully explained. And then Prince strikes a separate deal where he's like, no, I'll play you for it. And whoever wins this time gets full ownership of the club. Wow. Okay, if that wasn't mind-blowing enough, he wrote this film initially for him and Madonna to star in, but she took a look at the
It could have been
script.
worse. Yeah. Madonna could have been it.
And Madonna said,
people
this
can't act.
is a horrible screenplay, so she quit. And then it was supposed to go to his then girlfriend, Kim Basinger, so he could have a star in it. They broke up right before filming.
Also, let's not forget, too, this was originally a spin-off sequel for The Time, and it was just going to be like them in Las Vegas getting into some misadventures, and studios were like, we don't want to do a movie about just Morris Day. Because they had broken up for a brief period before they got back together. They got to sell it with Prince. So Prince
I
dipped
would have
himself into
rather
it.
they call him the original way. Because I don't know how we get there to this film, which is And it has a spiritual undercurrent because he decides to cast a unknown named Ingrid Chavez, and she's horrible. Oh, and her character's name is Aura for some odd reason. And spoiler alert,
he's about to go into the Jehovah time of his life, maybe going head first into the God time.
And spoiler alert, throughout this whole film, she somehow leads him on a mystical spiritual journey. And through his music, him and Morris Day somehow repair their friendship, and he convinces Morris to go straight. And I'm going to tell you
all with
truth.
Lady hair. He has some serious lady hair in this.
The only reason I remember this film is for one bad comedic scene where Morris Day tries to get Ingrid Chavez's character drunk and tries to sexually assault her, and he ends up making out with Jerome in the dark. And then while Jerome goes to wash out his mouth, Morris Day somehow has a physical breakdown for some reason. I just remember that scene being so bad, and I was like, this pretty much tells you everything you need to know about the film. But that's what I thought of this crap fest with good music.
Well, Prince just shouldn't direct, obviously. He should stick to what he's good at, which is making incredible music and being an icon, a tiny little purple icon figure with really hot girlfriends.
I think the movie was designed as a promotional tool for his artists at that particular moment in his career. It didn't really feel like a direct sequel to Purple Rain, which was more, I guess you could say, realistic, whereas here he's shooting in his studio in Paisley Park, artificial sets, everything looks so fake and tacky like a bad Broadway musical.
Right.
And you just have you have characters in there that really have no point to the plot. Tevin Campbell, you know, he's in there.
Round and Round. I like that song.
George Clinton shirtless doing a performance.
It's George Clinton.
Mavis Staples.
Yeah, he can kind of do
anything.
anything.
Khan.
Yeah, nothing seems to connect. Everything is too spiritual, and Prince is just, he's having his cake and eating it too.
Well, but I mean,
again,
I don't know.
Not everyone can be Orson Welles. Like some things work when there's just like the Blues Brothers works and there's a bunch of everybody in that movie, you know, because there's a story that you can follow. There's just, look, there's the story.
And this was like the premiere of the New Power Generation after he had fired the Revolution.
Yeah.
So, I mean, New Power Generation are good on their own right, but they're no Revolution.
Well, yeah.
And, is there anything anybody else wants to say about this film?
Well, it did so badly, that's pretty much marking the downhill spiral with him and Warner Brothers, where he had his unpronounceable symbol.
Yeah.
Well, do you think maybe he designed it to be this bad as a fuck you to the studio, maybe?
Like how he had like 3 albums he had to finish for them, right? And he did it all in a year. And then his next album was called Emancipation. Maybe it was all the mastermind, the purple mastermind, intentionally made a horrible, horrible film to lose them money.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Because that would explain a lot of this film's plotting and storyline.
Was he a drug addict or anything during this? Anything we can...
Prince doesn't drink, supposedly, nor do drugs.
I've heard things, but I'm not going to get him here.
Yes, he does have lawyers. And me being the avid Kevin Smith fan, and though he's never returned to film, though he did do like a score for Spike Lee's what was the name of the
Girl
film?
6.
Girl 6, and, you know, writing a song for Showgirls, interestingly enough. And of course, who could forget Bat Dance?
That's right.
Also, supposedly, he wanted to have, he hired Kevin Smith to do a documentary for him, and this whole story is recounted in the DVD An Evening with Kevin Smith, and it was supposed to be all about religion, because Prince is obsessed with religion, as if Graffiti Bridge couldn't tell you that. And he hired Kevin Smith to film these interviews and all this. And, you know, Kevin Smith talks about, you know, the strangeness of Prince. Like, he has mics in every room of his house, including his bathroom. And at the time, he did not know that
he can't write a song about anything.
Well, and that Prince was a practicing Jehovah's Witness at the time. He didn't know that. So, more of the group informed him about this, and also that, you know, Prince kind of doesn't deal in reality, which it could be kind of predictable because, you know, he has all these assistants and yes men get him whatever he wants. But it's an interesting story. Kevin Smith obviously tells it better. And, of course, who could forget the Charlie Murphy story on the Dave Chappelle show of, you know, meeting Prince and playing basketball with him. You know, Prince...
Insert pancakes here. Yeah.
Prince obviously has a reputation, and he more than lives up to it, but he also shows that he has a great talent behind all this, just only in music, not particularly in acting or directing. But you know what? I will go out on a limb. Even though these movies are horrible, if he wanted to make another film, I'd watch it on DVD.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
I would wear a blouse and go to the theater just for the hell of it. Just because I love that little man so much.
I'm surprised there's not more midnight screenings of any of these films, because obviously Graffiti Bridge and Under the Cherry Moon can reach Troll 2 status if need
Yeah,
be.
but midnight screenings have to be fun too. Graffiti Bridge, you got to really work to get through that.
Well, you could have fun in your own sort of way by maybe getting a little under the influence before you go to the film, and maybe then Graffiti Bridge will finally make full sense.
So you're saying you have to drop acid or something to see what...
Yeah, it's got to be something really strong. You got to get into that Prince mindset where this all makes sense.
Listen to the Dirty Mind album. That will set you straight.
Or I would say even better yet, listen to a Prince album, but put on Purple Rain on mute, and then try and listen to it with his other albums. In that way, maybe you'll get full entertainment, and then just pretend it's the sequel to Purple Rain, only remade by Prince with different music.
For whatever reason, all of this is making me really, like, well, not happy, but, you know, for the artists where they just remained true, you know, they didn't go into, branch into film, or like somebody like Jimi Hendrix or Janis Joplin, like they died before they tried to become directors. You know, no offense. I mean, I'm glad that Prince is still around, but it's probably better just to keep your legend whole with the stuff that you do well. Leave it at Purple Rain and then run. Take your high heels and your purple pants and run out of there.
Most musicians take control of their projects, but thank God they don't try to think they're bigger than life and like, I have a story to tell. Though I would have liked to have seen a Michael Jackson film written and directed by Michael Jackson.
Maybe not.
I don't know about that.
I want to see his vision in other than the music video for Liberian Girl.
Or maybe a 2-hour thriller movie.
Yeah.
Like
that would have been interesting if John Landis would have just been like, okay,
but that's,
you
know, a good director behind it.
You
can get away with a lot if there's a good director behind it. Yeah.
But, I mean, if anything, I would really like them, if they have the footage, to start releasing more Prince concerts, more on DVD or theatrically. Because I remember on VH1 Classics, I saw this great, you know, but it was for a performance, but it was only one song, and it wasn't part of an actual full concert, so I'd like to see more things like that.
Well, that was also his Sign of the Times concert film from '87.
What was he did one in 1999 too. He did a big concert with a bunch of different people.
I think it was like the Crystal Ball concert, but it was only released on DVD. I mean, arguably, he's a class act, and he has his quirks, but...
Well, he's one of the best musicians that ever lived, so if he wants to be crazy and make some stupid movies, who cares?
Exactly. It's all forgiven.
Who cares?
So we'll look past his last two and only films that he directed.
Go see Purple Rain if you haven't seen it.
Exactly.
And for you kids out there, go see Purple Rain.
And for the new generation, go see Purple Rain.
And enjoy the 80s hair.
Yeah, and Apollonia, call me.
Vanity, you can call me. Kim Basinger for him.
No, Apollonia, it can call me too. And Sheila E.
Sheila E.
Yes, yeah, Sheila E. If you're out there.
Yeah.
And that ends our discussion of the great Prince movies ever made. As always, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on This Is Infamous. And you can also find Lola Rollin' Rock'n'Rolla where?
LolaRock'n'Rolla.com, but also Lola Rock'n'Rolla at Facebook and the Twitter machine, the Gmail thing, and everything else Lola Rock'n'Rolla-esque. There it is.
And Andre?
You can find me on AJEpics at blogspot.com. You can find me on Facebook under AJ Epics Productions and see all my short films there.
And you can find Prince wherever you can find him. And that'll end this week's episode of the CineFiles.